Hey y'all, it's Heel Heat time.
Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. This is our WWE show for the week. My name is George Coles and let's jump right into it. First off, I want to apologize that this is so late. Again, it's been a really busy week for me. Unfortunately, this was the first time I had an opportunity to take the time to sit down and do this. But we'll jump right into the show. First off, we have the so-so portion of the night. We have the Undertaker, Heyman, Brock Lesnar segment. The reason it fits in here is because they haven't booked Brock Lesnar in a way that he looks like a threat to the streak, which is kind of surprising because physically he should be one of the bigger threats to the streak there's ever been. Way more than a guy like CM Punk. Even a guy as talented as Triple H or Shawn Michaels, you got a guy that's quote-unquote a legitimate badass that's physically intimidating, and going into this, he looks like Wile E. Coyote to the Undertaker's Roadrunner. Everything he tries to do, Undertaker turns on him. But anyway, to me, they haven't sold this match as much as they should. Doesn't mean I'm not looking forward to the match. Just, I think they could have sold it better than what they have. Now, next up, we have our first of two Divas matches on the night. Summer Rae versus Natalya, based off something that happened on Total Divas, where Summer Rae smacked Natalya. Thought this was an okay match. Again, it fits into this department because it just really, I don't think it was given the time. I like the fact that they're going to build feuds that don't involve the Divas Championship. It shows me that maybe, just maybe, they're going to do something with the women's division. However, they still gave it a short match. Summer Rae picks up the surprise win. But, okay match, not really memorable or forgettable. That's why it's on here. Next up, we have the Usos versus Los Matadors versus Ryback versus the Real Americans. Usos pick up the win, and what I can only say is that, again, there was a timing issue. They just didn't give this match enough time with the number of people involved to give us something interesting. The match itself, as far as the flow and the style, was good. It just didn't have time to build peaks and crescendos in the match. And you don't need a half hour to do that. But you do when you have four teams. You need more time than just 5-10 minutes. You need to be able to build everything, which is something, as we'll get into other stuff that happened on the show, something that could have cut down on some other things to maybe make this better. Now, next up, we have R-Truth versus Bray Wyatt, and basically Bray Wyatt's tune-up match for WrestleMania. Wyatt picks up the win. The Wyatt family start attacking Xavier Woods, which brings out Cena. Well, actually, Cena in disguise comes up from behind them, attacks all of them. Nice way to set up their feud. Again, we've seen Bray Wyatt versus R-Truth before. This isn't their first rodeo. It would have been better if the announcers would have said Bray Wyatt is wrestling against one of John Cena's best friends. You know, whether truth is or not, let us think that he is. Give us a reason why this match means something other than it being a tune-up match. You know, let us think that, okay, Bray Wyatt's going to try and get to John Cena by attacking his friend. Just saying. And last but not least in the so-so list, our second Divas match, Naomi versus AJ Lee. Naomi has a lot of potential. Since coming back, however, she's shown a lot of ring rust. And these two just couldn't get in sync with it. I have a strong feeling that Naomi's going to be the one walking out of WrestleMania with the title. Something in my gut tells me that. I'd rather see Tamina Snuka do it. I think she's better equipped to handle it and better all around, to be honest with you. But the fact that they've got 2 Diva segments on the show is a promising sign. Now, if they can make it 2 quality segments, would be even better. Or if they could take the 2 segments, shrink them into 1, and give us 1 quality Diva match, it would be a lot better. Now, coming off of that, we're going to go into our question of the week. The question of the week from last week is, who do you think is going to win the Andre the Giant Battle Royal? Now, before I get into my opinion, I'm going to mention some of our friends. The first is from @AUP116 on Twitter. For the question of the week, Brodus Clay because he's confirmed, but my spoilers would be RVD or Luke Harper. I feel the Wyatts will win big at WrestleMania. I don't think Luke's in there. I think there's 3 spots that they haven't filled, so I assume that'll be surprises. Maybe someone like RVD or maybe Luke Harper, but I think they'll save them for people of RVD's ilk, maybe a Chris Jericho that slides in that reportedly won't be there, or a DDP or a Jake the Snake, or someone that's there for the Hall of Fame that just happens to get into it. Next up is Corey McFall. I'm sorry. I'm going to go with Big Show to win it. Like he said, he's always been compared to Andre, and I think WWF has enough respect for him to give him the win. I hope it's someone who, like Ziggler, who wins, but it doesn't seem likely. Good calls on both of those. Next up is our friend Yellow Lion 3250. I think Big E is going to win. What better way to push him into that upper tier than with a win? Also, it could be won by Dolph Ziggler, but I wouldn't put it past Week to have a heel win, a.k.a. Bad News Brown. I'm guessing he meant WWE and it auto-corrected to Week. Sorry about that. And last but not least, from our friends Dizzle Pup, it would be cool if they used the Battle Royal as an opportunity to throw a new name forward, especially when you consider the reset that happens post-Mania. But I expect that Corey will be right and Show will win it because of the comparisons to Andre throughout his career. It'd create a feel-good factor. Now, we've seen, and they've even used it in Angle, that the Big Show doesn't have the greatest win-loss record at WrestleMania. If Big Show's career is winding down, this is a way, like they said, to give him that "we respect you and thank you for everything you've done for us" moment. So I could easily see Big Show winning. Like everybody else, I think it would be a great deal to see this being a way to elevate somebody else. Somebody like a Biggie Langston, or Damian Sandow, a Dolph Ziggler, Alberto Del Rio. I mean, I understand some of these guys have made it up to the top before, but a guy like Del Rio is floundering right now. What better way to hotshot him back into the title picture than have him win such an important Battle Royal? But that would be my guess. I would say it's either going to be Show or Del Rio. I wouldn't put it past them giving it to Sheamus, seeing how much they enjoy Sheamus. He's kind of in the same boat as Del Rio, where he's kind of floundering right now with what he's doing, so maybe they give it to Sheamus too. But my vote is for either Big Show or Del Rio. Next up, our question of the week for this week. Out of all the WrestleManias that you've watched, which has been the most disappointing? Let us know what you think. Hit us up on Facebook, hit us up on Twitter. Put it down where? Down there in the comments. Now we're going to go into the bad portion of the night. First off, the interview with The Authority, Batista and Randy Orton. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Just because you keep repeating the same format doesn't mean that it's going to get better. To me, it's just last month they've wasted giving us the same promo over and over again. And it's quite disappointing when they got guys legitimately who have charisma and have talent. Triple H has a lot of charisma. Randy Orton, not as much as Triple H. Triple H is a different category. But Randy Orton, when done right, when put in the proper position, can be one of the best parts of a show. Dave Bautista as well. People forget because of this run, and they tend to shit on Dave because of what he's not. He's not Daniel Bryan. However, Dave is a quality wrestler, or was before he left, and he's someone that you could get behind if booked better. I think people more got disappointed that he came in and took what everybody perceived to be Daniel Bryan's spot. But coming up, sorry about that. After that, we have one more segment in the bad selection, and it pains me deep in my soul that I had to put this in the bad selection, but I have to be honest with myself and honest with you fans or friends. The Piper's Pit. I hate putting it here. I love Rowdy Roddy Piper. There's only one wrestler in the history of wrestling that I like and am more of a fan of than Roddy Piper, and that's Mick Foley. Piper's the guy that drew me into wrestling, that got me watching wrestling in the first place. I was never a Hulkamaniac. I always wanted Piper to win, even though he was a bad guy. I was weird like that, I guess. I was wired to cheer for the bad guys. I loved Darth Vader. I loved the Decepticons on Transformers, Skeletor on He-Man. List goes on and on. The reason this was terrible is he started talking about the Andre Battle Royal, which I get it. They're building up to be a huge match, and it is, and it's got a huge name attached to it. He gets cut off by The Miz, Sheamus, Titus O'Neil, Dolph Ziggler, and The Big Show, which leads to a brawl with all of the participants, or most of the participants, coming out and brawling. The reason this is in the bad segment is because this is no different than a Miz TV, whereas nothing was really said. We didn't use Roddy Piper to his best of his ability. Imagine the Piper's Pit we could have had if they got rid of that set, if they used it to build up the Wyatt family John Cena feud, if he had the Wyatt family on it. Imagine Bray Wyatt and Roddy Piper. Imagine if they had Heyman and Brock Lesnar on here. Roddy Piper and The Undertaker. You know, there's so many different ways they could have went with this. The Shield and Piper. You know, so many different ways they could have took this that would have optimized Piper's talent more than this throwaway segment did. And that was so disappointing. You got one of the legitimate, whether you love him or hate him, one of the legitimate all-time greats in the history of wrestling being wasted at what he could do best. But I digress, and I'm going to move on to the good segment of the night. First up, we have Big E Langston versus Alberto Del Rio. If you can remember a few months back when they were using this match quite often, I was always a fan of it. I think these two have great chemistry with each other. A little bit shocked to see Del Rio win cleanly over the Intercontinental Champion, but I believe, like I mentioned before, I think they're going to use this and maybe use the Battle Royal as a way to bring Del Rio back in the main event picture. A lot of people are cold on Del Rio. I'm a fan of his. I think he's a good heel. I like what he does. He's very solid in the ring. I think we got burned out because he was pushed to the top and automatically as soon as he came in. I think people got tired of seeing him there. But I think he is a quality wrestler and a quality talent. And I love Big E Langston. I'm a little bit confused as to why he would lose here other than to build Del Rio, but I see big things for Big E in the future. Along with the next match, Fandango and Damien Sandow. I love that pairing. Versus the Rhodes brothers. Rhodes brothers pick up the feel-good win, as they should against a team that's just thrown together to take up a spot on the show. But it was a heck of a match. Fandango and Sandow worked together well, almost as well as Sandow and Cody Rhodes did. It makes me think maybe, and not necessarily this team, but maybe to refresh somebody like Fandango who last year, and even Triple H mentioned it, had a rocket tied to his back and has grown stale a little bit since then. Maybe a team with Sandow, maybe even a guy like Tyler Breeze coming up from NXT, making a team with Fandango as a similar gimmick. It'll help, get him back into our collective thoughts and into our ideas. Remember how hot Damien Sandow and Cody Rhodes both became being the Rhodes Scholars. Just a thought going forward. Next up, we have Roman Reigns versus Kane. The fans had to vote on who they wanted of the Shield. Roman Reigns won by a landslide, which makes it hard for me to believe that it was just the fans that voted on that. I do understand he's popular and might be the most popular. I don't think it's that big of a gulf between him and the other two members of the Shield. It ends in a no contest when both the Shield... Well, actually, Kane wins because the Shield get involved in the actual match first. But the New Age Outlaws and the Shield all get involved, thus leaving us a cliffhanger setting up their WrestleMania match. And last but not least, the main event of the night, Batista versus Orton. A decent match going. Then we had interference from Daniel Bryan coming out and attacking Triple H, attacking the other guys, standing tall at the end, which kind of scares me because usually when someone stands tall on the go-home show, that means they're not winning at the pay-per-view. But I could be wrong. They could be going a different route. Now, we're going to go right into our ratings for this week. If you've seen the show before, you know we have a 1 to 5 scale. 1's the worst, 5's the best. 1's a great colleague, 2's a Santino Marella, 3's a Damien Sandow, 4's a Cesaro, 5's a Daniel Bryan. I'm giving this a 2, a Santino Marella. For a go-home WrestleMania show, this was very underwhelming. To me, WrestleMania this year, the card is stacked. It's absolutely stacked from top to bottom. And it doesn't need to be sold. However, they should have done a better job with the go-home shows selling it. Just my opinion. I was a little bit underwhelmed, a little bit disappointed most of the night. But before I go off of this, and I mentioned this last week, and I appreciate everything that everybody did. I think last week's show was we had the most likes that we've ever had on a show, and I appreciate the hell out of that, guys. Thank you so much for doing that. Please continue to do so. I want YouTube to start pushing our show, getting it into more people. The more people that like our show and comment on our show and share our show, the more YouTube will push it. So I want to get this out here. I want to spread the word of Heel Heat. If you like what we're doing, take a second to hit the like button. Take a couple moments to answer the question of the week. Put a comment if you want to comment on something that has nothing to do with the question of the week. Put a comment down there, hey, I love your show, hey, I hate your show. Let us know. Share this with your friends, share this on your social media. We want to get out there and we want to share this. We want to share Heel Heat with the entire wrestling world and make more and more friends in the wrestling business and make friends with other fans that are just like us, that love wrestling and are passionate about it. But basically, that's all I have to say about that. My name is George Coles, and this has been another episode of Heel Heat.